Welcome to Earth Radiance TV. I'm your host, Tammie Pike, and I'm so honoured to have you on this journey of self-love and self-discovery with me. I have created Earth Radiance TV as a remedy to combat women feeling alone in life, love, family, and business. Within this series, I will be interviewing women who are going against the normalcy of society and are living, loving, mothering, and doing business their own unique way. So get comfortable and give yourself permission to be inspired by the wisdom, love, learnings, and truth of each woman as she unfolds her journey with you. Welcome, beautiful, to Earth Radiance, a place for you to be real, be wild, and be you. Danielle Gardner is a business coach who specialises in authentic marketing and messaging. She believes that you don't have to be extroverted to make bold, flashy claims to attract business. You can market quietly and meaningfully, and in doing so, draw in kindred spirits that you will love working with. Her approach to marketing is refreshingly different and has a strong appeal with those who identify as being highly sensitive and are tired of the way online marketing is being done. Welcome everyone to another episode of Earth Radiance TV. Today I am so delighted to have the most amazing and divine Danielle Gardner. Thank you so much, Danny, for being here today.
Thank you, Tammie. Thanks for inviting me on your show, and really excited to have this chat with you today.
Awesome. For those who heard the introduction of Danny, she is an amazing business coach who helps you find the ways to do business your way. And what I love about Danny is she's really going against the grain and the mold of what we are shown to do on Facebook and through multiple coaches is push, 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 sell, 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 and really being loud about being present on social media. And so, Danny, I would love for you to share about this other way that we can actually do business and how you help women do that.
Yeah, sure. So, I'll start by saying that I was doing all the things that I now stand against, so to speak, because I wanted to be successful just like everyone else in their business. And so, I was just like, you need to do that, I'll do that. You're successful at that, I'll do that. So it was just unquestioned, everything that I was doing. And, little by little, I started to realize that I just wasn't enjoying it. My gut was going, but I kept trying to push that down, because I just thought, no, this is what you have to do. And, little by little, I guess the thing that I always remember, this turning point about, doing the whole Facebook group marketing strategy, and, it's like, it is so helpful in terms of, doesn't cost you anything and all that kind of thing. But I find, as a highly sensitive person, in hindsight now, that trying to be in all these spaces at once and trying to sort of almost make small talk, I felt like, I found it really challenging. I found it really laborious. And I remember this time thinking, I was trying to come up, like with a question, for like question day or whatever, that would get engagement. And I was really struggling, and it just felt like, and I remember thinking, it would be so much more, easier for me right now to just go and write a 600-word blog. I remember thinking that, and I thought, well, why don't you do that then? So then, I started down that track of writing more and blogging, and I had just finished doing some really great market research. I'm a really big market research advocate. It really changed my business. So I had a lot to write about, in response to what I found. And then, then I was doing that mainly on LinkedIn as well as my own blog, but I was like really kind of, focusing on LinkedIn at the time. And I ended up doing really well. Like, people were coming to me and commenting, and I was like, man, this is way easier than Facebook groups, But I stayed in groups for a while longer. And then there also came this time where I'm just like, really, like, I just can't keep doing this. But I knew I did want to be in a community, So, what I did, which I would probably encourage a lot of people to do, is instead of trying to be in several groups, just do one group really well, just have a presence there and let that be your place, you know. So I did that for a while, and I still just mainly, although I'm in other groups, I don't really participate. You know, there's one main group that I participate in. So, you know, I think it's good to sort of, you know, stay in those communities. And because I've applied these other strategies now, it means I can, for the most part, I'm just in there supporting other people. I'm just sort of making meaningful comments on what they share, and you know, very rarely sharing my own offers, because I've come to understand that this content marketing approach, which I guess underpins quiet marketing, is a really strong approach to this sort of like quietly, gently, consistently sharing your message, expanding your reach. And I find that my best clients, my VIP clients, they come through that pathway. Like I'll say, how did you find out about me? Well, I've been reading your blogs. That was consistently the answer. No one has come to me because, oh, I keep seeing you putting out offers and I finally, you know, took one. You know, it was the other way. So I'm like, yeah, you know.
Amazing. And I love that.
Started.
Yeah, amazing. And what I really love is the fact is that you listened to yourself. You know, you didn't keep pushing and forcing. You found a way that you were able to actually feel good in showing up, rather than doing it in a way that you have been told to. And, you know, to be successful in business. And like you said, people in Facebook land, especially in the groups, they're just sick of being marketed to, you know what I mean? And they're just, okay, what's next, you know, and then market goes on and they let go of. But I find too, it's also good for women, if you're in a couple of groups, to really refine your speech and how you talk about your business, because then you can take that on, like you said, because you grew your foundation through, you know, really getting feedback and, you know, talking and connecting with other people through Facebook, but then you're ready to take it to somewhere that felt more meaningful for you. And for the women watching who are in that space of overwhelm, they've grown themselves to a space where they feel comfortable in exploring their wisdom through blogs. How do they transition? Like, what is the steps to do that? And is it really a space of just listening to yourself really and seeing what works?
Yeah. So what has worked really well for me is knowing my human design as a starting point, really. So I don't know whether you've talked about human design on your show before,
No,
but you know.
I do know about it, but I haven't talked about it on here, so please share.
Yeah. So look, I'm not the best at sharing the concept as a whole, but it is I guess a system that was channeled to a guy. I can't even remember his name actually, but on Ibiza, I remember that bit. And it brings in a lot of the esoteric schools of knowledge, basically, and really interesting. And it categorizes people into basically 5 different types, based on your location of birth, your date of birth, your time of birth. And so it's a really interesting system to explore. I found that with my type, it's classed as generator. And so the key strategy, the key like beginning point, is that my role in the human network is to respond. So it's basically to respond to the network, to what the network needs. Now, the opposite of that is to initiate, right? So how that works in marketing is like, oh, just keep putting stuff out there. Oh, I've got this intuition and I'm just going to do this thing, right? And I think that's the worst thing that generators can do, even if they're very intuitive. So it's like, my lesson has been to stop initiating, right? Because I've always initiated, from like parties, events, you know, whatever, like everything. I'm an initiator. I've done that all my life. So it's been a real lesson for me to sort of, you know, I talk about this sort of leaning back, just stopping, you know, because I'm kind of a go-getter as well, like noticing and then going, oh, yeah, right. Like I've got something to say about that, or I've got something to whatever, you know, do in response. So because that's my particular strategy, market research has been priceless, because it's like what I'm able to do, like I know what my gifts and my knowledge and things like that are, but through asking and observing what people need, what the network needs, I can create in response. So whether it's a blog or an offer or whatever. I still think that makes a lot of sense anyway, regardless of your design. I don't know, like maybe a human design expert might say that I'm incorrect with that. I don't know. But most of us have the generator type, 70% of us, 10% of us, or it could be less, no, I think it's 10, have the initiator type, right? Where it all starts with initiating. So they literally can, in my opinion and understanding, just go, we're going to do this and just, like totally initiate something, and it doesn't need to be in response. That's sort of what I'm seeing. But do you know what I mean? So for the most part, it's that. And it's like, I do get this a lot, people wondering like, well, what do I write about? What do people want to hear about? And it's kind of like, I don't think it's totally what other people want to hear about, because it actually starts with us. It starts with our journey, with our, like our medicine, I like to say now, like our message is our medicine. For me, my medicine has been slowing down, leaning back, because I've always been a high achiever, So it's like slowing down was so foreign, and aiming lower, that's like foreign. But it was a message that I got in meditation one day, like, because I was really stuck with something, and I heard this like, aim slower, in my own voice, and it was like, what? I would never say that. So I knew it was sort of a message. So from that place of blending my journey, my medicine, knowing what I can help people with, observing, kind of asking through market research, I can sort of blend this me and them, So it's like, if I have an idea for something, it generally has been from a conversation I've seen, So Facebook groups have been really good for that. Let's say someone says something and I have a very different opinion. I might not want to just charge in like a wounded bull and go, and share my opinion. But I might use that as fuel to go over to my Facebook page and do like a native post to discuss that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a really great way to get started too. So, and like the final point I'll say on this matter, and I'll give this as a gift to your audience. There's no sign up required. I'll just give you the link. I have this document. It's called the 4-part Message Organiser, and it actually there's 4 parts to it basically. And if you actually fill it out, and I can show people what a completed one looks like, it really is your go-to document for content. It's like you can kind of look at that and then create things in response to that. So amazing. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that I'm looking forward to having, looking at it and using that, because the thing is, I think why I'm so drawn to you is because of you going against the grain, and of you saying there's a different way. And the thing is, women too, like we feel that we have to keep up there, we have to push, we have to, be in that linear structured mindset, but really we can be in flow. And what you're doing is radiating and role modeling that, the flow, that we don't have to rush. Like when we gather, we're not out there just searching like crazy. Back in the day, we'd take our time, we'd search where we need to search, and we'd take one step at a time. We wouldn't be rushing in and going, because we'd miss out on actually what we're needing. And I think this is where we can bring that over into our business, is that gentleness and that flow in our business. So I love what you're doing and showing up so authentically in your post as well, because you're sharing like, this is how you do it. You're also saying, I'm willing to give you content and support you, but when you're really ready to embrace this, I'm here for you. Isn't that like, that's what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've really noticed that it's those posts where I'm sharing my opinion that are the most resonant for people. Like I can go how to this and how to that and whatever, which is helpful, and I know that people appreciate it even if they don't really engage. But it's those where I'm not sending people anywhere, to any resource. I'm just sort of sharing my opinion. And the thing is, when we share our opinion, if we can help people just think differently on something, that's really powerful. That's really helpful, So, really, has demonstrated to me that there's various ways to help people, and it's not always that how to sort of stuff. It's like just sharing the opinion, and it's a really fast way to draw in kindred spirits when you do that. And it's bringing all of you. I guess that's, you know, that's the authentic side. It's like taking a risk even to sort of share what you really think, and have the courage to do that, because not everyone will agree or like it, or you know, that kind of thing. So that expressing the personality is a really important part of you know, being in business really, and expressing your brand.
And it's so beautiful, because I think when people, especially or talking about women, and we get caught up in that like comparing and competitiveness, but no one can be us, no one can be who we are. And especially if you start sharing your opinion and you grow your business on that, that's you wholly and solely. No one else can mimic that to the point of authentically being that, you know what I mean?
That word.
It's been a big day, but that's the thing. And I think you just really hold space for women to do that. And I've been seeing on your page that you're having community conversations as well, where people can just jump on and talk about these issues. And so for this month, you've got one, balancing ambition with enoughness, and I love that. I was just like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. But you're offering that space for people to start having these conversations where usually they wouldn't, would they?
No, and it's like these deeper conversations that I feel drawn to have. I guess you don't get a lot of that out there, you know. And it's interesting how this happened, because it's sort of like, you know, I've got the quiet marketing sort of side, and that's very kind of the strategy. Like, it's, you know, it's their principles, but their strategy. But where the slow business side, it's sort of like, it's a cause, it's a revolution. Well, they're both kind of revolutions. But when I kind of broke down, well, what is it that I'm really talking about here in terms of slow business? And it's been my medicine, you know. So there's key things, like I've came up with 6, you know, key principles. And so, I'm just starting to cycle through those in conversations. And those calls are really beautiful, because it's like the first part is a conversation about whatever topic that is. And then, there's quiet time. I think you may have seen that there's quiet time on the call, right? It's so cool. And it's nice, because if you kind of been meaning to sort of make some space to sort of really reflect on where you've been in the month ahead, but you just can't, you know, you're not getting around to it, it's a really good kind of thing to make yourself accountable, to just show up. You'll get the quiet time on the call. And the other thing I really love about these calls is there's a section where Zoom automatically pairs us up in breakout rooms. And what we do is share what we came up with in that reflection. So we share our intentions, we share our word for the month. And what I love about that is, again, if you're sort of highly sensitive, or sort of a little bit introverted, or you're just not really good at small talk, which is me, I love being paired up and having a purpose, and not just like, hey, what's your business? Yeah, my business. What's your, you know, like, it's kind of like, you know, but this is very purposeful, and it's a lovely way just to meet, like, you expand your reach. The more people you meet, the more people who find out about you and what you're doing, even if they're not your ideal client, you know. So that's really lovely call. And the other thing I wanted to mention, just going back to that idea of slowing down or being slow, it's like, really, when you slow down, you speed up, sort of thing, or you make more progress. And that was so true for me. It's like I made more progress from sort of like letting go of, in fact, one of the things I did was I let go of income goals, because I actually found it wasn't serving me. And that was really hard to do, because all around, you know, it's like 5K weeks or whatever, and 10, you know, 5-figure months, and 6-figure this and 7-figure that. And, you know, like, when I let go of that, and just focused on really community building, that really helped me, because I thought I can build a community, I reckon. You know, if I keep just sharing and being helpful and being their most trusted advisor, I can do that. And what was interesting is then when I started to sort of get help with my accounts, when I started looking at my income and how it improved, I was like, wow, that's all right, you know. So really interesting. Like, you know, we kind of almost that there's that message there that we kind of got to have these big income goals. And I just found it didn't work for me. Like I was just always not hitting the mark when I focused on that. And it was like discouraging, really. So that's another thing I encourage. If you know, if it resonates with people, if someone goes, "Oh, thank God, I don't have to have an income goal," like if that resonates, I think go for it. You know.
Yeah, and thank you for giving that permission, I guess, because again, when you are in business, you're around other people in business, especially on Facebook, and having it, that does, I think, get you in a space of anxiety, or you know, oh my goodness, they're making this and they're comparing. And if we just let go and focus on serving, our bank account's going to represent who we're serving and how we're showing up in the world. So rather than focus on that as the main thing, we focus on how can we show up more? How can we serve more? How can I be of more assistance? And then it doesn't matter, like that income becomes a side effect or a symptom of you showing up and being a gift to the world in whatever way that you do that, whether it's a product, a service, you know, anything. It doesn't matter. It's just how you choose to look at it. And I think it becomes again more aligned with those who especially are very connected to wanting to be more of service rather than, you know, the material aspect. Do you feel that as well? Like that's really a more nurturing way of looking at business?
Yeah. And I think I've definitely changed over time. I used to get a little bit frustrated if I worked with people and they went go, it's not about the money. It's not about the money, you know. And that was, I find that a little bit irritating because then somehow I felt like they were, I don't know, giving them permission not to do well or something. And I think that comes from a different space than maybe what I'm talking about in terms of, you know, maybe don't have income as, you know, an income goal. You know, maybe sure have an idea, but have goals that lead to income.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yes.
So, you know, pieces of content. You can do that, right? You have total control over that. You don't actually have control, absolute control over income.
No.
You know, you've just got to do the markers that lead to that. And one thing that has popped in that I feel to share with you and your audience is just to have a little chat about slow list building. Something I feel quite passionate about.
Yeah.
So, you know, the traditional way at the moment in online business is to build your list fast, right? And the main way that's promoted is through various forms of email opt-ins. So webinars, challenges, you know, digital downloads, that kind of thing. And in my journey, I did really quite well with the sort of more digital download type thing. I've never really got into the webinars or challenges. So, you know, I could get, you know, sometimes 30 signups in one day for like $0 sort of thing from Facebook groups and stuff like that. I'd also been part of a summit where I got, you know, basically a shitload of email opt-ins from that, right? But what I noticed, and I also always observe my own experience, how do I respond to marketing, right? When freebies are dangled in front of people who don't know you from a bar of soap, they go for the goodie, but they're not going for you because they don't know you, right? So they kind of go, oh, I need that, you know. So that kind of grabbing, I need that and that and that and that and that. So, you know, they're signing up for multiple, in our audiences, it tends to happen, multiple freebies and things like that. So they can't remember who they've signed up with, you know. And then you end up in their inbox and they're like, who's that? Why is this person emailing me? Spam. You know, or that, you know, that's the worst case scenario. But, you know, when I decided to sort of stop that. In fact, I was always looking at my unsubscribes, you know, and I think it can be kind of quite revealing, you know. And for example, I noticed that my highest number of subscribes were from this summit. Okay. And I think because a lot of people, they didn't even necessarily watch, I did get a client out of that, which was great. But I think for the most part, people didn't actually watch the interview. They just went for the freebie. Right. So highest number of unsubscribed. So when I looked back, it was like, how worthwhile was that really in terms of authentic list building? So anyway, come to the present day, you know, you hear that you can't just have some people sign up to your newsletter, right? You can't. You got to give them something, right? You got to give them, well, in the masculine world, it'll be, they'll call it an ethical bribe. So it still doesn't sound good, even if it's got the word ethical in front of it. So that's how I build my list now, through my newsletter, you know. And apparently you can't do that. Well, I'm not building it fast, but the quality is excellent. And since I've changed this approach, my open and click-through rate of just keep getting better and better and better. It's edging towards 45% open rate now and about 10% click-through, which is amazing because the industry average is around, you know, 20% open and maybe, you know, 1, 2, 3% click through, you know. So it's also good for people to know their open and click through rates as well if they're sending out things. And you know what I managed to do was come up with a kind of a clever, not clever as in, like I always say, be clear, not clever. You know, so I'm weary about using the word clever, but I call my newsletter the Quiet Marketing Insider. And so it's kind of cute, you know what I mean?
Like, name, yeah.
I want to be an insider. When that dropped in, I'm like, oh my God, that's good. That's a good one. And so when people go to that page, you know, I just basically say that, hey, like, if you want to hear about my marketing experiments and be the first to know about different things that I'm doing and offering and whatever, sign up to be an insider, you know? So it's just really upfront. It's like, and I'm calling it my occasional newsletter because again,
I love that.
You're not meant to say that, right? But I'm just like, you know, I just want to talk when I've got something to say, you know. I don't want to pump out newsletters every week if I don't feel really strongly about it. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, actually the biggest debate, the biggest thing against that you'll hear is that, like, you'll have business coaches say, you know, something like, people come to rely and expect, you know, your newsletter, so you need to have it frequently. And I'm like, really? I don't expect and rely on anyone's newsletter. Do you know what I mean? That just doesn't make sense to me. Exactly. And so when I see someone in my inbox that's not there very often, I'm actually more interested. It's like, oh, what have they got to say? You know? Whereas the ones I receive every week, I just kind of don't open, you know.
It's too much. It feels like bombarding, really, you know what I mean? And I cherish the ones, like, there's only a few that I really cherish because I know how meaningful they are, what I get from it, and it's not all the time and feeling like you just see their name. And it's like, no, unsubscribe, you know what I mean? If it's too much, because I don't have the time to give them that every single week. So it's to be meaningful. But what I'd like to ask you too, with all this change, Danny, what has it meant for you in your life? Like, how do you feel inside yourself? Like, how has that changed to how you were to now?
Yeah, well, overall, and look, I still have my moments where I flip into sort of overwhelm or like going, you know, but those times are a lot shorter now. But yeah, I used to, like, constantly, you know, I would wake up in the morning and, you know, for the first few seconds, oh, it's morning. And then I would just kind of be almost hit with a bit of anxiety, you know, about what was happening online, you know, what's happening in Facebook, what have people said about, you know. And I guess that was in particular about Facebook groups. When I share stuff on my own page, I'm way less concerned and worried because it's my home. And I think we've talked about this before, and, you know, I get to say what I want in my home, you know. But whereas if I was sharing things in other people's spaces that were different to what their thing is, I just felt a little bit uneasy, that kind of thing. So, and also, I guess, Facebook groups in particular, they can remind me a little bit of the schoolyard, and am I in with the cool girls or not? Or, that kind of thing. So a little bit of anxiety there. So I feel calmer. I allow for more space. And again, then sometimes I don't, do you know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh yeah, like, let's get back to that. So, yeah, I think generally it just means that I feel calmer, and I create more space, in between sessions, and I'm quite focused now on not piling too much on my plate on one day, and having pottering time, and understanding that I have a certain energetic capacity for client contact time. So, and honoring that, and it's quite small, so then it's like, okay, well, hey, what else can you do to help people? So it makes me get creative about how I'm going to help people. So, yeah, I think it's just that whole feeling more calm, feeling more relaxed, feeling like, I don't have to get there yesterday, that step by step by step, this will grow, and who knows where it will lead, I'm open to that now as well,
Do you find you have more space to listen to your intuition and being more guided in what direction to go, because you're in more of your own flow and more authentic, like working in business more authentically to your soul?
Yeah, I think things that help with that is where I notice that things that I view on Facebook will affect me in terms of make me panic or go, like I kind of minimize that. I think it really helps me not to see what people are doing.
Yes.
And what also helps is to get away from my desk, because my ideas never come at my desk. They come while I'm doing the ironing, while I'm doing the washing up, while I'm going out having a glass of wine, In fact, sometimes I get this scary idea that I get all of my ideas while I'm having a glass of wine, and I'm like, what's that about? Okay. Well, wine then,
Probably because you're really enjoying it and being present with it, and everything else can just drop in because you're not in that mindset. But I don't know. good.
Yeah.
A good wine.
Yeah. So that, one of the community conversations actually is that I recently had was creating space for your business to breathe. And that started off as a sort of a nice philosophical idea, and it's actually become a really legit business strategy for me. So, again, I just have tended to do everything quickly. So have an idea for an offer, bang, it's out there that day online. Have a newsletter, it's going out that day. Have an email where it's a bit like, oh, I want to respond right there. I've changed all that. I see how things and my responses, they're so much more well developed and matured when I allow for that space. So yeah, that's part of it as well. And then that creates space for my own, I guess, divine intelligence or whatever you want to call it to drop in.
Amazing. Well,
as does Sabbath,
yes, I was going to ask you about that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly touch on that. I found I was just way too connected to my phone, like, oh, let's just see what's going on in the, like on weekends and stuff like that. And I'm like, I just could see the addiction, and I just couldn't. I tried digital fasting, didn't work, didn't stick, But then I came across this idea of Sabbath. I saw through a few books written on the subject, and one of them was called Rest. I didn't read it, by the way, but anyway, it was enough to send me on the path.
Exactly.
Rest, and then it said something about this. The subheading was something to do with the remembering the art of Sabbath or something or other. And I'm like, I just knew it. So I went down this, journey of like reading up about all I could about Sabbath and all of that, and then I created my own version. So it's I call it like a modern day secular, so in other words, non-religious Sabbath. And for me, it means no work, including housework, no inputs. So, reading stuff, listening to stuff, watching stuff, that can get a bit tricky, but I've been able to maintain it up until now. I think they were the main things that I don't do. And so then it comes to, well, what can I do then? And so since I've started doing Sabbath, I'll make sure that my husband and I, we have an adventure on a Sunday. So we get out, and often when I'm driving, I'll get ideas. So that's kind of outputs, So I'll just scribble things down. I always have my notebook with me on a Sabbath, and I've started watercolor painting, something that I'd wanted to do for probably a year or so or more. I now do that on a Sunday morning. And I just find that it does create this space again. So when I actually go back to my business on Monday, usually I've got actually a couple of content ideas that just came really quickly while I was in the car. So I just type them up, and it's just, I come back more refreshed and so really, really helpful. And again, the only thing that stuck to get me to stop looking at my phone, basically.
And that's the thing, doing what works for you and listening to that guidance. So I really, really love what you've shared. It's been amazing. So much beautiful tips, and, also getting people to think outside the square and really creating a business that feels good, because I think that's the biggest thing, is that business can feel good if we allow it to. Yes, we still have to work and, work at growing it, but we can still allow space to enjoy what it means to own a business and to do what we love. But I would really love for you to share where people can find more about you. I know we'll share links, but if you could just explain some of the things that you have available.
Yeah, sure. So my Facebook page is probably the easiest place to start. So it's called Quiet Marketing with Danielle Gardner. From there, you'll find the link to my website, which is danniegardner.com. And then in terms of what I am offering, so as you mentioned, I have these monthly slow business community calls where you can jump in and have a meaningful conversation, plan for the month ahead, and there's also access to peer mentoring. So you can actually, partner up with whoever you get partnered up with in the call, in the breakout room, and stay in touch with them for accountability and things like that. And then I have my Quiet Marketing Mastermind now. So just finishing off doing the intake for the current intake, but that will open up again in a couple of months. And I also do a marketing message appraisal, which is really handy. That's a half-hour session. And then I have my my longer-term sort of business mentoring, where I really take people through their whole messaging, their whole strategy, really, to get them in a position where they're sharing great content, they're becoming a leader in their industry through their content, and they start to generate clients through that.
Amazing. That all feels so amazing. So thank you so much for today. Thank you for sharing your amazing wisdom. And it really is a delight to talk to, a woman who's actually walking her talk and creating a business that flows and isn't about, going against what feels right for you, and actually listening to your intuition and your flow. So thank you so much, Danny. I really appreciate your time and for sharing such amazing advice as well.
You're welcome, Tammie. Thank you so much for letting me speak to your audience. I really love it. This has been fun.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone for watching in and tuning in for this episode. And please make sure to, if you feel really aligned with Danny's message, get in contact, like her Facebook page, see what she has going on. And I'm really keen to also jump in on those business calls because they sound absolutely amazing. So thank you everyone, and see you next time.